Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a recipe document that totally nails that elusive balance we're all looking for. Incredible flavor mixed with absolute sheer simplicity. We're going to break down the Honey BBQ chicken potato bake step by step to see exactly how it pulls this off. I am super excited to get into this one with you because it reveals a remarkably efficient method. We're going to look at exactly how to prep it, the actual mechanics of how the Honey BBQ chicken cooks, and of course, how to maximize your results from start to finish. Let's jump in.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The ultimate promise of today's source material is basically the holy grail for home cooks, a cozy one-pan meal your family will love. The document immediately sets the stage here. We are aiming for warmth, for comfort, but completely without that dreaded mountain of dirty dishes at the end of the night. By relying on just one single pan, the whole cooking process is completely streamlined. You're not managing a chaotic stovetop or scrubbing 5 different pots just for a quick weeknight dinner. No way! You are getting maximum coziness with incredible ease.
And just look at how remarkably simple this is. By mentally dividing our ingredient list into 2 distinct camps, we can really grasp the structure of this dish, which honestly is a huge mental help for meal prep. Up top, we've got our hearty core ingredients. Just 4 boneless, skinless chicken breasts, 4 medium diced potatoes, and a cup of corn. And the source notes, you can use frozen or canned corn, so there's some great flexibility there. Then, down at the bottom, we have our flavor engine, the sauce. A cup of BBQ sauce, a 1/4 cup of honey, a tablespoon of garlic powder, and just some salt and pepper to taste. It is a super concise list. It proves you absolutely don't need a massive, overflowing pantry to build a really robust dinner.
So, with our ingredients ready to go, this initial prep phase is all about setting ourselves up for success. Step 1, get that oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 190 degrees Celsius. While that heat is building up, Step 2 has us creating the entire flavor profile right in a large mixing bowl. You're just combining that BBQ sauce, honey, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And guys, this is a crucial phase. You are building the sticky, sweet, savory glaze right from the ground up. Then, in Step 3, those diced potatoes go straight into that bowl to get tossed and perfectly coated. Every single piece of potato is soaking up that Honey BBQ flavor before it even gets close to the pan.
Now, what's really interesting about this next phase is how incredibly fast everything comes together. In Step 4, that beautifully coated potato mixture gets spread out evenly across your baking dish to form this flavorful little bed. Then, the 4 chicken breasts go directly on top. Finally, Step 5 instructs us to just drizzle any of that remaining honey barbecue sauce right over the chicken and potatoes. And boom, assembly is completely done. We're talking just minutes to get from raw ingredients to a fully assembled meal that's ready for the heat.
And that brings us to the actual mechanics of how this Honey BBQ chicken cooks, 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this specific temperature, it's not just a random number. It is the exact starting point required to truly transform these ingredients. At 375 degrees, the oven is hot enough to make sure the chicken cooks thoroughly and safely, but it also allows those dense, diced potatoes underneath to soften up and roast properly. Plus, and this is key, at this temperature, the sugars in that 1/4 cup of honey and the BBQ sauce start to caramelize. They create this beautiful, sticky glaze without just instantly burning to a crisp.
But, temperature is really only half the equation here. Time is the other. 45 minutes. That is the minimum amount of time required in the oven for the heat to actually do its job. Because remember, we're cooking whole chicken breasts and diced raw potatoes together in one single dish. So the heat needs this sustained, unbroken window of 45 to 50 minutes to fully penetrate the thickest parts of the poultry and to break down the starches in the potatoes. Patience during this step is absolutely key.
So, the crucial point to remember for Step 6 is this. You must bake this dish uncovered. Why does the source specifically emphasize leaving it uncovered? Well, think about it. If you were to cover this dish with foil, you'd trap all the steam escaping from the chicken and the potatoes. You would essentially end up boiling or steaming your meal, which nobody wants. By leaving it uncovered, the dry heat of the oven interacts directly with that Honey BBQ sauce drizzled on top. This allows the sauce to reduce, to thicken up, and to perfectly glaze the chicken, while any excess moisture just evaporates right off. That's what lets the potatoes actually roast, instead of turning into a mushy mess. Now, of course, every oven is a little bit different, right? Which is exactly why the sauce gives us these very precise visual and textural cues for doneness. You definitely don't want to just rely on the clock for this. Around that 45-minute mark, you need to verify 2 things. First, check that the chicken is cooked all the way through, meaning absolutely no longer pink in the middle. Second, check that the potatoes are tender.
If a fork easily glides right into those diced potatoes and the chicken is fully cooked, then the heat has successfully done its job and your one-pan masterpiece is ready to come out of the oven.
This perfectly illustrates the entire life cycle of our meal, from the moment you step into the kitchen to literally days later. At minute 0, you're doing that incredibly fast prep and assembly, mixing the sauce, coating the potatoes, layering the chicken. From minute 45 to 50, the oven is doing all the heavy lifting for you, baking everything uncovered to perfection. But the life cycle doesn't end when dinner's over. The source specifically points out that you can store your leftovers in the fridge for up to 3 days. So this isn't just a great one-off dinner, it's actually a fantastic meal prep option for the rest of your week.
Speaking of those leftovers sitting in the fridge, the source leaves us with one final, highly practical takeaway. When you are ready to revive that meal for another dinner or maybe a quick lunch, reheating it in the oven yields the absolute best results. I know it's tempting, but skip the microwave. Using the oven again helps recreate that dry heat we talked about earlier. This makes sure the chicken doesn't get all rubbery, and it guarantees that the Honey BBQ glaze stays just as perfectly sticky and caramelized as it was on day 1. We've seen the simple ingredients, we've walked through the highly efficient assembly, and we've broken down exactly how the temperature and time perfectly cook this dish, which brings us to our final thought. With just one pan to clean and a sweet, savory flavor profile built right in, will this cozy one-pan bake become your family's new favorite weeknight dinner? I highly encourage you to hit the kitchen and test this straightforward, totally brilliant recipe for yourself. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.